Assembly instructions for the transportable wheel load scales Seras Mobil, a test system made by the company AGG Anlagen- und Gerätebau GmbH, Plant and Equipment Engineering Limited, applicable for all rail vehicles. The following film will be introducing you to our transportable system applicable for measuring wheel loads, axial weights, and total weights of rail vehicles, showing you how to assemble the system. Measuring the vertical wheel forces on the flange, our system checks the forces which act on the railway track at each of the 4 bogie wheels. The forces are measured simultaneously on both wheel sets of a bogie. The data, which are digitally collected, are directly transmitted to the analyzing software on a computer by means of a digital data bus or Bluetooth. A software particularly developed and included in the delivery of our transportable wheel load measuring system is able to simultaneously record all data of all wagons or carriers belonging to one train if necessary. The measurements, which need to be carried out particularly after the undercarriage of rail vehicles has been repaired, should result in a wheel load as equal as possible on all wheels of one wagon or carrier. Given the enormous stress acting on the wheels every day, this is the only way to facilitate a low-wear train operation. Not least, uniformly distributed wheel loads prevent the carriages from derailing, especially when the vehicle takes a bend at a higher speed. Let us now introduce you to the components of our transportable wheel load scales. Being delivered, the basic set for one wagon consists of 2 pallets. Each pallet is equipped with 1 pair of wheel load scales and an accessory box. First, we would like to show you the accessories the box contains. Apart from the computer for the measurements, there are the data cables to transmit the values of the individual digital measuring heads to the computer, with the relevant power supply and a bus converter. The mechanical accessories include slanting access blocks on which the flange of a wheel moves onto the friction-reducing rails of the measuring system. The measuring head can be built in as of the rail height S49, which corresponds to a track height of 149 mm. In order to facilitate measurements in UIC 60 tracks with a height of 172 mm, we have added these UIC 60 adapters. If requested, we produce suitable adapters for other track types. By means of these distance measurement strips, you will make sure that the space between the flange and the rail is sufficient after the vehicle will have been moved onto the scales. These shims for access blocks included in the delivery and available in different thicknesses, as well as those for the friction-reducing rails we have already introduced to you, make up for any differences in flange heights when you put them under the said blocks or rails. Finally, we would like to show you how to make our wheel load scales manually transportable. In order to assemble the wheel load scales, remove the transportation belts and place both weighbridges opposite one another flatly on the ground. Each weighbridge can detect 12.5 tons. Position the tightening shaft between them. Always keep to the health and safety regulations when assembling the scales. Remember that some parts can weigh up to 70 kilograms. This is why the assembly should preferably be carried out by 2 workers. Remove the first ring eyelet from the tightening shaft and insert the connecting pipe into the cone of the first weighbridge. Screw the ring eyelet you have removed before back into its hole. This ensures a firm connection of the 3 parts. Repeat the procedure with the second weighbridge on the other side. lift the two pipe ends slightly to make all connection pieces slip firmly into each other. Once again, the thread bolt of the eyelet secures the plug connection. All the other wheel load scales included in the delivery are assembled the same way. Let us now show you how to place the mounted parts into the track system. Use some lifting equipment available or mount the 4 carrying handles being part of the delivery to position the scales into the track system. As mentioned before, our measurement system can be used as of the S49 rail type. Here, you can see how to mount the UIC 60 adapters by means of the Allen screws enclosed. Use the enclosed 75mm spanner to twist the spindle of the tightening shaft. This makes the measuring heads go inwards and the equipment can be placed between the tracks. The Seras Mobil wheel load scales are applicable everywhere and can be positioned into all kinds of track systems without any alterations necessary. However, the system will preferably be used in repair workshops for rail vehicles, as our example shows. Each of the wheel load scales is placed in the track system by means of a crane or manually positioned with the mountable handles. Adequate to the axial distance on the rail vehicle to be measured, we recommend you mark the distances of the respective wheel axles on the rail. In its correct position, the thread bolt of the tightening shaft is tightened to fix the wheel load scales in this position. This tightening is secured by lock nuts. The 4 axial load scales for measuring one rail vehicle are mounted the same way, or if necessary, for several carriers in a row. Measuring the heights of the surfaces to be measured reveals if the system has been aligned horizontally. These shims laid on for the height adjustment when the rim dimensions are different are included in the delivery in different thicknesses. To protect the surfaces to be measured, we are now positioning the friction-reducing rail we have already shown you. The slanting access blocks complement the friction-reducing rail on both sides. The assembly procedure comes to an end with all measuring points being connected in series with data cables, beginning with an end adapter at the first measuring point. Since this is a digital measurement procedure, the system can be expanded as required. This animation shows the switching arrangement when a whole train is to be measured. The end piece of the digital cable is equipped with a power supply unit. The system is linked to the measuring computer by USB connection or Bluetooth interface. After all components of the system have been installed, the rail vehicle should move over the measuring bridges 2 or 3 times so that they can settle a bit if necessary. Now move the train into its measuring position. Slight lateral deviations from the marks on the rails can be tolerated since the measurement procedure functions equally on the whole friction-reducing rail. Check the space between the flanges of all wheels and the rails before starting the measurement. You have successfully installed the transportable Seras Mobil wheel load scale systems. After starting your measuring computer and choosing the relevant data records for the vehicle to be measured, you are now ready to measure the vertical wheel forces. The display shows you the data collected for each wheel. According to the system arrangement you've chosen, all axles can be measured successively while our software is analyzing the data collected. Systems to measure the wheel loads of rail vehicles, precise and efficient, with measuring equipment made by the company Anlagen- und Gerätebau GmbH.